Hello there, and thanks for staying with us here on the Joy News channel. This is The Pulse, brought to you by Global Communities, Digni, Lua, and Blessed Sogah. And of course, we are continuing our coverage of that which happened a few moments ago. The Finance Minister indicating clearly that government is ready to provide the necessary leadership to turn the economy around. Well, that's the firm assurance from the man in charge of the kitty as he lays out government's plan to move Ghana's economy out of austerity. The Finance Minister, who today conceded that the economy was not doing well, attributed the development to the external shocks of COVID-19 and the Russian-Ukraine war. Now, in spite of the meltdown, Ken Ofori-Atta is hopeful that the response measures being put in place by government will deal with the challenges confronting the nation. But meanwhile, there are reactions greeting his address today. Personnel of the nation's builders corps are fuming over the failure of the finance minister to provide a clear plan for 100,000 beneficiaries of the NAPCO program who are about to end their contract in September this year. Well, in the run-up to the end of their service, the finance minister is urging the current cohort on the program to take advantage of the YouStart initiative and other existing programs of government. Well, this is meeting the displeasure of the NAPCO beneficiaries who say that government needs to provide a clear plan for NAPCO beneficiaries. So exactly what's their demand? Let's bring in now Nana Techi, who's a spokesperson for the NAPCO Trainees Association. Thank you so much, sir, for your time here on The Pulse. So we've heard from the finance minister. He says your deal is ending in September. That is coming after an extension by the president. So you agree that at least for quite some time now, government has done quite a lot in addressing some of your concerns. What more are you expecting from the finance minister, by the way?
Thank you very much for the opportunity. And let me take this right set of circumstances to extend my greetings to workaholic NAPCO trainees who over the years have worked assiduously, remarkably in improving the productivity of this very country on an empty stomach. To be honest with you, all NAPCO beneficiaries are very disgruntled today because if you would recall, you were given notice by NAPCO management to remain at post, pending permanent employment and arrangement. And so with this media budget presentation, we were expecting the finance minister or the government to indicate clearly when are we going to be paid for our re-engagement. But he indicated that the scheme will probably end in September without stipulating clearly when we are going to be paid the arrears or arrears that have engulfed the NAPCO scheme. And so the NAPCO trainees are not happy. We are in a state of shock and starvation to death. We have been left the only aspect that has given us an idea, finance minister reaffirmed or affirmed that the NAPCO trainees were given an additional year. That means that we have every legal grounds that we can capitalize on in the future to mount pressure on the government to pay our arrears. And okay. I would like to urge the government that the payment of NAPCO allowance
right.
It's not an Russia. It is.
So what you're demanding is your salaries to be paid to you. Beyond that as well, your future hangs in the balance. Is it the case that you're asking the finance minister to consider issuing a directive to keep all of your members at post? Yeah, Nana Techi, I'm having some difficulties hearing you. If you could just try one more time. I was just trying to find out from you if it is the case that you're seeking the finance minister to keep you at post as NAPCO beneficiaries.
Yes, please. We're being given a notice, an official notice from NAPCO management after the expiration of the NAPCO scheme that we should remain.
Well, it appears that we're having some challenges there with the audio of Nana Techi, NAPCO beneficiaries who are demanding that something be done immediately to pay their arrears and also keep them at post. We'll cross over now to Parliament. Let's bring you Also, another concern from the health front, where some nurses are also demanding posting. That pressure is underway. KSLF Toforcing is about to introduce the group of nurses. But first, let's get the concern, and then we'll deal with some other issues.
Has happened at the Bank of Ghana. I just had a copy of the document itself, only to realize that between January 2022, January 2022 and June 2022, the minister responsible for finance and the government has gone to the Bank of Ghana, and they have encouraged the Bank of Ghana to print money worth 22 billion Ghana cedis. They have printed 22 billion Ghana cedis fresh money without the knowledge of Parliament. Colleagues, I am saddened. No wonder inflation is galloping. No wonder that our reserves position is dwindling. Because when you create a new money out of the thin air, what happens is that inflation will go up. And obviously, again, because it's a new money, you will end up losing your reserves because there will be new consumption. I am surprised that in the minister's statement, he failed to alert all of us that he has encouraged the Bank of Ghana to print new money worth 22 billion Ghana cedis, only for us to see it in this document. And you can see it in the media review document, page 97, appendix 2A. And the Bank of Ghana, they have printed 22 billion and 48 million Ghana cedis. 22 billion and 48 million Ghana cedis, new money that they have printed, without approval of Parliament, without informing all of us. This is illegal. It is against the Bank of Ghana Act. And I want to urge the governor of the central bank that he has engaged in an illegality. Gross illegality. Yes. And in future, if he is asked to print money, he should first come to Parliament first, before he acts. But in the meantime, I'm surprised that our minister responsible for finance failed to talk about it. So what he did today is a nullity. He should come back again and deliver a new media review. Because this is material. It is, in fact, perversive for a minister to omit the fact that they have taken 22 billion Ghana cedis from the central bank is perversive. I cannot accept it. It is scandalous, and he should have, at least as part of his statement, mentioned to us. Apparently, it is hidden in the appendix 3A. So if you do not have an eye, or you don't have a spectacle like I have, then it means you won't see it. Appendix 2A. I am saddened. No wonder inflation is going to the roof. If this trend continues, I won't be surprised that we'll end the year with inflation of 50%. If this trend continues, we may end up ending the year with inflation of about 50%. And we'll end up depleting the entire foreign reserves of our country to the extent that a time will come, we may not end up getting money to take care of our major imports, such as petroleum products and medicine. Let me end by saying that it is not only wrong, but it shows that this government is grossly incompetent. That at the time that investor community has lost hope in your economy, you don't do monetary financing. You don't do monetary financing. Because one thing that the NDC successfully removed in the year 2016 was the fact that we removed what we call fiscal dominance. Today, fiscal dominance is back in style. It's back with jacket. It's back in a way that is not acceptable. Ghana is in deep shit. Excuse my language. Things fall apart. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. In fact, Ajigong
Well, so there you have it. Another concern being raised there by the minority side of the House, raising concerns about the decision of government to put into the system fresh CD notes amounting to some 20 billion Ghana cedis. Let's wrap up with Nana Techi there. You were making the point about an appeal to the finance minister. In a minute, is it the case that you want your members to be reinstated or, maintained for the years to come in terms of NAPCO beneficiaries?
Yes, of course. That was the promise up to 2020 general elections. If you would recall, we were promised that we will be integrated into the permanent mainstream job after the expiration of the contract, of which the government haven't fulfilled that. And so you cannot board us, equip us with the necessary skills, working experience, and then finally, you will ask us to retrograde back to our unemployed state on an empty stomach. And so we are disgruntled today because the minister made mention of NAPCO, the ending in September, without indicating clearly when exactly are we going to be paid our allowances that have been stalemate for 9 good months. For 9 good months, now that we have worked that.
All right, then. I'm grateful that the spokesperson for the NAPCO trainees, Nana Techi, speaking there. Let's also hear from the majority, Deputy Majority Leader, Afenyo Makin, who has been reacting to the statement that we've heard from the Finance Minister. Let's go to that live to Parliament now and bring you that address right away.
As to what he's using the appropriation for. And this is what he came to do. So in simple terms, the minister did not come to seek parliamentary approval. He already has that approval. And every expenditure he's making is within that threshold. So you realize that even in the contribution of Honorable Haruna Idrisu, he did not attack the minister on any possible unconstitutional conduct because the minister was well fortified by the provisions of the Constitution. So, again, anybody who may attempt to suggest that there was a requirement for a motion to be moved may be in error. I would proceed with these veritable words as relied on by the Minister of Finance at page 43 of this 53-page address. This is what he says per paragraph 82. We concede that times are hard and things are not what we desired. But we believe in the overcoming spirit of the Ghanaian people, a spirit that does not cower in the face of challenges. It is this spirit that inspires us as a government to provide the leadership that is required. All of us know, as a matter of fact, that the MPP government, upon assumption of office, took immediate steps to implement without delay every single social intervention program it promised while in opposition. In doing so, government did not even attempt to increase taxation. Rather, government reviewed the taxation we inherited from the NDC government, review in terms of some of them being reviewed downwards and some being repealed completely. And in fact, for emphasis, the e-levy is the first major fiscal policy in terms of taxation that government introduced. The first major. Of course, somebody may talk about the pollution levy and all that. Those are minor levies. But I'm saying that a major levy that was introduced to address some fiscal challenges was the e-levy. Again, it is of importance for all of us to remember that when the NDC was in office, Ghanaians cried on the NDC government for a reduction in electricity tariffs. This, the NDC government, it could not do. But when the MPP government under Nana Akufo-Addo assumed office, without increasing taxes, electricity tariffs were reduced between 17 to 30%. household enjoyed rebate, corporate enjoyed rebate, bulk purchasers or bulk users also enjoy rebate. These are facts that any person who does not even like this government at all can attest to. So it's a matter of fact. Now let's deal with the macroeconomic indicators. Without even going specific, we know that 2017, 18, 19, this country was enjoying a steady growth. We even achieved a single-digit inflation. Then, of course, the COVID-19 struck, which took us all by surprise. And not only this country, the world over. So, should an NDC appointee, an NDC MP, come to you and tell you that difficult times that we are in is as a result of mismanagement, obviously, it may be one of the numerous propaganda. Because the world over, every government is complaining in one way or the other. Because COVID affected the supply chain, COVID affected industries. Many companies shut down all over the world. We were all held as prisoners in our homes because we needed to stay at home so that we would not escalate the spread of the COVID in our country. It affected production. The worst of it is the current Russia-Ukraine war. Iron rods that are used by our private sector for construction come from Ukraine. Obviously, the supply chain is affected. Obviously, the costs of importing will not be the same as previous. Now, cement, the paper for bagging cement comes from Russia. As we speak, companies that are involved in the manufacturing of cement have difficulties in getting the required quantity for bagging. It's affecting industry. Flour, wheat, we know wheat comes from Ukraine. Quite a sizable percentage of world production of wheat comes from Ukraine. Once there is this war, which is a force majeure, obviously you don't expect things to be the way they were. So for NDC to go to IMF when there was no such world crisis, to turn round and claim that they are better managers of the economy because we have to go to the IMF now for sustainability, for support, for fiscal support, for them to help us to balance our payments, means Ken Ofori-Atta and his team are incompetent. It's rich, to say the least. It leaves so much to be desired. I see the posture of the NDC as the usual politics. As Mr. Speaker described, it is unfortunate, and that we all thought this democracy has come far. But they would not want to reason with us by looking at the real issues. It is our submission as a government that we are focusing on reviving the economy. That is why government is still putting in place incentives to support industry. The 1D, 1F is still a major private sector initiative of this government. That if we are able to industrialize, Ghana will be beyond aid. And that government is focused on. Let me touch on free SHS. We would, for the umpteenth time, at the risk of being repetitive, re-echo the fact that many of our young girls and boys were left out because their parents or guardians could not afford secondary education. I stand here as a member of parliament. It was by luck and the grace of God that took me through secondary education. If I was not that lucky, if the grace was not sufficient at that time, between 1995 and 1997, I would have dropped out. In my final year at St. Augustine's, it took the bursary of Parkway Syndrome, which bursary I won, that got me to register and pay my final year fees. Can we talk about the many more Ghanaians, then and now, who were in my situation and did not get any help. So I do not want us to water down the investment this government has made in the free SHS. It is a major investment. Millions of Ghanaians are benefiting. And today, somebody from the hinterland can have access to first-class school. This, I believe, we must sustain. And government is saying that it is not giving up on it. Previously, we could hear many students graduating from our nursing schools and having to stay at home for 4 years, 5 years. Today, I dare any NDC member to challenge me by saying that we have over 3 years graduates staying at home. All of them have been absorbed into the system. They've been employed. If you go to the security services, many of our youth, and the minister has provided the statistics, the mainstream public service, we know that government has continued to recruit for the various new districts that were created, for the various agencies, and these are facts. Today, the minister has provided the figures, and it is up to the NDC to challenge it for them to meet their own cul-de-sac. I will conclude by saying that this government remains focused. We are
We'll also have it, the reaction of the majority to the media budget review by the finance minister there, indicating clearly what it is that government intends to do about the economy going forward. We'll keep our eyes on Parliament and definitely bring you some updates later on in our subsequent bulletins. We also need to touch on some other issues, but before we do that, it appears that the Deputy Majority Leader, Apenyo Makin, is rounding up on a number of issues as well. We can just listen in and give you some updates.
Out onto the radio station with their appointor seeking to lead this country one more time. What did they do when they had opportunity? In comparative terms, in relative terms, can they say that they did better than this government? So that impression must not be created. I'm happy my respected colleague, Honorable Hawa Kumsin, is here. Look at the interventions that we have made in the fishery sector. For 8 years of NDC in government, in fact, they even got CDB facility. One of it was to fund the coastal development project, the London Beach project. Not a single one of them was ever done. In fact, Honorable Setekpe came to Parliament to cap the facility, to remove or take out of the facility that London Beach project. MPP came. They doubted us. Immediately, Nana Akufo-Addo promised the Central Regional House of Chiefs that it is his intention to look for facility to start the London Beach project. As we speak, from the original 5, we have done excess of 10. My own constituency, Efutu, has benefited. A thing that the fishermen cried for it for many years. Today, such major investments are happening at our coastal line. What more can we expect? Of course, like the finance minister said, we are not running 100% perfection. We cannot. It's not possible. Mistakes will be made. Disappointment will come. You expect that within this dispensation, there should be critics. It keeps you on your toe as a government. So I agree. But then the NDC should not create any misleading impression that they are better than the MPP in terms of governance. So I will call on Ghanaians to keep faith, remain focused, have trust in this government. If today they are calling on the finance minister to resign, they are personalizing governance and attacking the finance minister, we dare ask them, did Setekpe resign? Did their ministers resign? No. Because in spite of their incompetence, they still believed in the collective. Today, they are proud to re-represent. They are proud of former President John Mahama. They want him to lead the nation again. They say they have no other choice apart from him. Is that so? If it is so, they should give us opportunity to transform the economy where it became a problem as a result of COVID and Ukraine-Russian war. We have demonstrated that with the policies in place, we will be able to get out of this. So we conclude by saying that temporarily, we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We as a government shall fear no what? Evil. Because the Lord is with us. Yes. His rod and his staff will comfort us. And he will prepare a table before Ghanaians in the presence of all those adversaries. Yes. All those who are naysayers will see the glory of the Lord manifesting in their lives. And they will know that our determination has given us victory, and we shall never return to any NDC rule. I thank you so much. I will hand over to my respected colleague who would proceed to address you in our three dialects. I thank you so much indeed.
Deputy Majority Leader Afenyo there, addressing the press in Parliament after the Finance Minister's address a while ago. You're still with us here on the Pulse on the JoyNews channel. There's a need for us to tackle some more issues coming up here. The Cybersecurity Authority says it has observed a surge in online impersonation. The authority explains that after its active intelligence on social media in the month of June, it found out that fake profiles of government appointees and other persons of influence are being used to sway online users to make fraudulent investments or to pay fees for non-existing contracts. The Cybersecurity Authority is therefore urging the general public to be very mindful of such accounts when transacting businesses online. Let's get more in terms of the statement released a while ago by the authority, indicating the concerns they have with the activities online. And let's first of all hear from some of the officials from the authority as we ready that statement for you. Joining us now via Zoom is one of the officials there at the authority, joining us and giving us some insight into what it is that the authority is concerned about. Thank you so much, sir, for your time. So first of all, let's talk about this intelligence that was conducted by the Cybersecurity Authority. How often do you carry out such activities, and how come and how did you arrive at this latest finding?
Okay, thank you very much. And a very good afternoon to your listeners also and those watching us. Well, we conduct these threat intelligence based on incidents that are being reported to the authority and trends that we find happening within our cyberspace or over the internet. Now, this kind of threat intelligence actually was influenced by two main things. First of all, it was based on the number of incidents, or in terms of incidents being reported to the Cybersecurity Authority. Online impersonation actually features strongly. When you take, for the first half of the year, for instance, online impersonation forms part of the top 5 incidents being reported to the Cybersecurity Authority. The second thing also is that why we see it as a major threat is that when you look at Ghana's adoption with regards to the internet, Ghana currently, about 53% of Ghana's population is on the internet. Now, when you look at social media where online impersonation is being perpetrated, you realize that Ghana's population, about 23% of Ghana's population are active social media users. Now, what even makes this matter worse is that current statistics available to the Cybersecurity Authority indicates that Ghana is third globally with respect to the amount of time or the time spent on social media. It makes this a major threat if online impersonation is something that features in terms of incidents that are coming in and our use and adoption of social media within the country.
You obviously checked, and then you realize that, for instance, from your close monitoring, government appointees are amongst some of the highest profiles that are being faked online. How so?
Yes, so as part of the work that we do, yes, we go on the internet and check threats that are going to affect Ghana. Social media, of course, being a big platform and has a lot of influence. So we go on there to do some form of monitoring. And also incidents that also are being reported to us features a lot of online impersonation. Now, just as normal users, should you even go on to social media, let's say Facebook, right? And then you type the name of one of our MPs or government appointees there, you realize that the person has more than 5 or 6, sometimes even 15, 20 profiles there. The one person does not own all these, of course. So we do from daily, we go onto the internet, social media, we do monitoring. What we do is that once we come across some of these, we report them because we have certain level of collaboration with these social media giants. And then we do some form of takedown of these accounts that are lurking on the internet.
Let's do, for instance, a breakdown of some of the items you talk about in that statement which you released earlier today. Portions, actually talking about, in fact, you were specific in mentioning some of the institutions that are very rampant on social media in terms of these fraudulent activities. These fraudulent activities that you talk about. You go ahead to point out in the observations you make in point 1 and 2, for instance, you were talking about some institutions such as the Ghana Revenue Authority, the Ghana Police Service, the National Lottery Authority, and also companies like Jata Cement and Awake Limited, which are being used to perpetrate some of these fraudulent activities. And then you talk about how some persons are using gambling and, of course, loan schemes and scholarships to sway online users. With these institutions that, for instance, you identify, is it the case that you're going to engage them to try and rectify the concerns?
Well, when you look at the actual situation, so there are institutions and there are individuals also affected in this particular case. The institutions, do not really have much to do with respect to this because the internet or social media actually is an open space. Anybody can go there, create a profile, and put a picture that they can get from anywhere on that profile and claim to be this particular person or brand. What happens is that when you engage in engaging the actual firms or institutions that are affected, what we seek to know is if they do have an actual social media profile. So once we are able to ascertain the original or the legitimate account belonging to that institution or individual, we are able to narrow down and see the ones that are fake. Then we work with the social media giants to take those ones down so that it doesn't affect the actual or legitimate profile of these institutions. So if we engage with them, the only thing we do is that we seek to find the actual profile or the legitimate profile of these institutions. So in our takedowns, we do not wipe those ones out.
But then I guess you're looking for solutions. If you look at the internet space, for instance, it's a highly deregulated space. I'm not sure that taking down some of these pages will be the way to go. But how do you intend really to deal with some of these challenges you've identified?
Yes, I think you've really made a very important statement because these profiles, we've noticed that are even being created sometimes with AI, in that once you take it down, the next moment another one pops up. So it becomes a trend that we keep doing, sending profiles and being taken down, and then the next morning they are back online again. So it is not, of course, not a lasting solution to it. One best way to do is what we are doing now, which is awareness creation, to let individuals, the public know about these things so that when they go on social media, they are aware. Because what happens is that once these profiles are created, they use something we call social engineering on their victims. Okay, so they try to play along as if they are the legitimate brands that they claim to represent, and then they find ways to lure these people into various kinds of frauds. Okay, so the best way to go about this is awareness, okay? So using your platform, for instance, we reach out to people for them to understand and know that there are things like this happening on the internet. So once you start engaging a profile on social media, you should have that at the back of your mind that this one could also be a fraudulent one. So you take cautious steps in doing so. Technically, yes, we are working in collaboration with the various social media giants to see how best we can rectify some of these. I mean, the best way also to go is to use AI in doing some of these. They are also doing or conducting research into this because it's not just an issue with respect to Ghana. It is a global problem for social media giants. And they're also looking at best ways to solving this technically. However, one way or the other coin to this is creating awareness for people to know that this is something that is happening and we should be cautious of it. For instance, you start engaging something like someone who claims to be a member of parliament or the head of a government institution. Then the person tells you that he can offer you a job. There's no public official who will go over the internet and then offer someone he hardly knows a job. It doesn't happen. We should be wary of these things. Now, you go onto the internet, a brand is being represented. He says, I can give you this product at a very subsidized price, looking at the market. Sometimes even half, sometimes even 90% less than the actual price on the market. These are signs that we should see, okay? So that we educate ourselves. Once we enter that space and anyone is doing anything of this sort, we are able to identify and prevent. So we are looking at the preventive measure, okay, than in terms of the corrective measures.
Looking at the Ghanaian population, the challenge is you may not have everyone who is tech savvy. So how do you intend to provide redress to persons who may fall victim to such incidents?
Yes, so in terms of victims of these incidents, we have what we call the cybercrime, cybersecurity incident reporting points of contact. So these are carefully selected contacts. So one of them is a short code called 292. So for instance, someone who is not tech savvy, who has fallen victim to such an incident, can just call 292 and will be able to reach the cybersecurity authority. Another one also is we also have a WhatsApp platform, 050-160-3111. Others who are tech savvy can also report incidents via these channels. So once you call and you reach the cybersecurity authority, we are able to give you or take details regarding these incidents. You are able to do follow-ups and then take them down and, if possible, do some form of arrest once we are able to identify those behind some of these schemes.
Is there any other thing the public needs to know about online, the profiles, and when you're dealing with them, how to know that, for instance, this is a genuine Facebook page? Is there something that someone who's not technically, learned in terms of knowing the dynamics online, is there something to be on the lookout for when you're chatting with these accounts on the internet?
Yes, most definitely. It's not all the time that you are, or all profiles that you are going to be able to identify this. We are trying as much as possible to what we call verify some of these persons and brands that are being impersonated online. So when you go on social media, for instance, you see some of the profiles, there's a blue tick by these profiles. Mm-hmm. What it means is that it has gone through some form of verification with Facebook or the social media on which you are on. Right. So once that has been verified, it shows that this is the legitimate profile of this person. That is one aspect of it. The second one is sometimes the person has not gone through that process. However, it might be the legitimate account of such a person, right? So once you start engaging such a person, okay, from the lines of conversation, like I said, the person is giving you an investment that is promising returns, very high returns in, a very short period of time. A government official giving you a job on social media, he hardly knows you. They are red flags, okay? So it's being able to identify red flags once you start engaging some of these persons. There's no government official that will be on social media to promise some of these things that we find ourselves in. So these are the two main forms through which you can identify these on an impersonated profile. So you look out for the blue tick that shows that it has gone through some form of verification, and indeed that profile actually belongs to this person. And then you look at in terms of what do we call it, engagement. Once they start engaging, you get to know that these things are. So you, again, let me just put this across that once you start engaging and you are not too sure, the reporting points of contact are not only for reporting incidents that have successfully gone through, they are also for doing some form of verifications. Okay, so once you start engaging this and you're not too sure, you can still reach out to the Cybersecurity Authority through these platforms, and we'll be able to do some level of verification for you to identify if you're indeed engaging with a legitimate person or a fraudulent account.
From your perspective, I mean, as the emergency response team, would you say that people are getting used to the avenues you've provided for them to redress any concern that they may have, for instance?
I wouldn't say people are getting used to, because we still feel there's more going on out there and we are not receiving the reports. Of course, we are not a government organization and we expect to receive calls from about 30 million and over people regarding some of these things. But the numbers we receive are quite, not, I would say, not too much. We know there's more going on out there, and there's a need for us to also go, to places also and educate people and tell people about these avenues for reporting. So, being here is also one way of reaching out to the public to know that.
But can you give us a sense of the reports you're dealing with now in terms of probably the numbers? Do we have an idea, for instance, for the year 2022 or 2021 alone?
Okay, so I don't have them off head, but I can tell you, for instance, from January to about May, we had received around close to around 45,000 contacts had been made to us. Not all of these contacts actually were incidents actually. So once we receive the contacts, we go through something we call triaging, where we verify whatever you send to us and we try to categorize it to know if it's really an incident or not. Out of these 45,000, around 9,000 of them were actual incidents. Okay, the rest of them were people calling to check or calling to verify, and we had, of course, certain prank calls also coming in also. So we had people just calling to verify if whatever they are engaging or whatever they are doing online, where that is a majority of that particular number. So I think around 25,000 of that number were calls to check or contacts to check if whatever they are doing online is legitimate or not. So the actual incidents that we have is close to around 9,000 thereabouts.
So it's fair to say that some fraudulent activities online amounted to 9,000 reports in just the first half of the year. Is that the case?
Yes, there are other, they were all not online fraud related incidents. So there were other ones that also came in. We have side online impersonation, online fraud. We have, what do we call it? Publication of non-consensual intimate images. We have online blackmail also happening a lot. And then we have a number of also unauthorized access also within some of these numbers. So not all of them were related to online impersonation.
In all of this, there's also the concern about children, the fact that the internet space is open up to children who may not necessarily have that confidence to walk up to the Cybersecurity Authority to report any incident, or may not even be conscious that they're being taken advantage of online. In such cases, what do you advise?
Yeah, so within the internet space, we consider children as the most vulnerable ones in the internet space, because they are naive, being introduced to a big space as this at a very tender age. Now, yes, they might not be able to reach us, but 292 is a number that we go out, when we go out to the various schools and institutions. Yes, we tell the kids that once you find yourself in any issue or something that you do not understand, you reach out to the Cybersecurity Authority if you are not too comfortable with going to your teachers or parents. Okay, so we encourage them that the short code 292 is something that is easy to remember. Just call us, we'll get back to you. Sometimes even on through text message. It still comes through 292. We get back to them, and then we, work with them to ensure that they are able to prevent. That's our major priority. Prevent some of these things also. And also the Cybersecurity Act also makes provision for the protection of children also. So certain acts have been criminalized now in the Cybersecurity Act, which was passed in the year 2020.
There's this gray area about mobile money fraud. How do you come in then? Because, well, you don't have the activities happening online, but you get to receive calls asking you to follow some prompts either online or maybe through the SSIDs. So how do you deal with that, for instance?
Yes. So what we have also noticed is that when it comes to mobile money fraud in itself, we have seen quite a reduction per the reports that we receive. However, what's happening is that when it comes to the various forms of online fraud, investment scam, what do we call it? Other forms of online fraud, okay? The monies are sent through the mobile money platforms, all right?
Right.
So it's not the mobile money fraud in itself that is happening now, but the online fraud, we receive funds through the mobile money. One way that we look into addressing some of these things, of course, is through the re-registration of the SIM cards. It's going to do quite a lot of good with respect to these particular ones, because the issue that we faced with regards to some of these issues were that most of the SIM cards that were being used to receive funds, okay, were not properly registered. So once we start or commence investigations into some of these related activities, we find ourselves at a place that we can't move further because we can't even identify who owns this particular SIM card. It becomes quite a problematic issue. We have to find other ways of identifying who actually owns it. So one of the major interventions that is going to help in the identification or rectifying some of these things is the re-registration of the SIM cards. Once that data is sanitized, now we can put names or ID cards or individuals to these numbers that are receiving fraudulent funds.
I'll take your final words on this.
With my final words, I'll say, yes, the Cybersecurity Authority is a body that has been mandated to regulate cybersecurity activities within the space. The Computer Emergency Response Team is a unit within the Cybersecurity Authority. You can reach us on 292, WhatsApp 050-160-3111. We also have, of course, I think it's being displayed on your screen, an email where you can also report at cybersecurity.gov.gh. It's not only for reporting incidents. However, you can call in, you can email us, you can WhatsApp us to do some form of verification. And any help that we have, we will be happy to provide it.
Isaac, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Well, some disgruntled trained nurses have picketed Parliament to demand their immediate employment after nearly 3 years of sitting at home. In anticipation of the Finance Minister's presence in Parliament, the nurses decided to besiege Parliament to protest over government's failure to absorb them. There's more in this report by my colleague, Michael Papani-Ashali.
Some of them, they have to grant loans to pay our fees, but still we are home. We have to wait and take care of our parents. We are still home. Now we have been
after it, you stay at home for 3 good years. What again are you going to practice?
Sad and angry, these nurses have decided to picket Parliament as a last resort to get employed by the government. Since completing their training in 2019, they have been home without work.
We are still in the house. The degrees are at post. The diplomas too are also at post. But as for the NAS and then the NAPs, we are still in the house. We don't understand. What have we done to deserve this? Why are they underrating us? We can't tolerate this again. We can't tolerate this again.
So you think it's intentional?
Yes, it is. We are fed up. We are fed up.
After 3 years, I've been in the house whilst I'm not working. and I've been a burden to my parents since I have siblings too that they are taking care of. It's not easy being in the house. We did every year, we have to renew our PIN, and it's 55 Ghana cedis. And I mean, where should we get the money from to renew our PIN since we are not working? So please, we are pleading with the government to help us. Some of us, our renters are due, and where is the money for us to renew our rent?
38-year-old Alhassan Wasilato is one of those picketing. As a mother of 3, she says her continued stay at home is becoming frustrating.
Complain about rates that I finished school. Why is it that I'm still in the house? And I said the government have promised us to post us, but he's not doing so. So we are pleading with the government that he should post us. Some of the cheap compounds have been neglected. They need us to come and work for them. So he should post us so that we also get something to take care of our children and family.
Moses Otu says without a job, he has become a burden to those supporting him.
We want the people of Ghanaians to know that we are still at home, because most of the politicians, they will go to the media houses and then they will now fabricate lies that the 2019 badges of nurses are posted, which is a lie, a big lie. That is why we have decided to come here, so that those big men, those politicians who goes to the media to tell Ghanaians that we have been posted, right now we are now burdens to our families. Some of them are thinking that we failed our exams, which is not so. We've qualified, and the most annoying aspect of it is that whilst we are at home, we still do our license.
Moses says he has been forced to live on loans.
It's just by grace that we are still among the living. Because right now, if I must tell you, quick loan, every blessed day they have to give me message because of the way we've been borrowing money. Right now that I'm here, I am here on loan because I have to borrow before I come here. And that is what I have to do that. If I don't do it, my employment will not come.
Trained as assistant clinical and preventive nurses, they fear their skills will wear away if they continuously stay away from practice.
We can't cope with it anymore because our services and then the qualities, the skills, the arts, they are all wearing off. We are sick and tired of them.
Oh, the Ministry of Health, the reassurance that they're giving it to us is too much. Now we can't contain it again. We can't do anything again.
We are now frustrated. We don't know what to do. We completed school 2019, and up to now we are still at home. We've gone through all the necessary means to get employed, but up to now we are not getting employment.
Their timing clashes with the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, who is expected to present a financial statement in Parliament. Although just a few at the forecourt of Parliament, there are thousands more across the country yet to be posted years after they completed various levels of training as nurses. Their wish is to start work as soon as possible. For JoyNews, Michael Ashale.
We are begging you, the Ministry of Health.
And that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. My name is Blessed Sogah. Log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates for you there.